Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Real Love Scenario. Dre's not here, so let's say, like, co-host is not in the building, and he is not here for really good reasons. So it is his fourth wedding anniversary, and he is spending it with his beautiful wife, my good sis Bree, on a lovely vacation. So we are sending them so much love to enjoy and soak up all of the beautiful sunshine and relish in marriage. So he's not here tonight, but we wanted to make sure we came to you with an episode anyway. And we do have a really special guest tonight, so I'm going to introduce him here shortly. But if you're just joining us, again, welcome, welcome, welcome. We always appreciate when you guys tap in. Please, as always, if you are in the chat, drop where you're joining us from, what city, what state, what country, which part of the world you are joining us from. And if you're new here, listen, we love new real lovers, but in order to be a part of the gang, you have got to subscribe, you've got to like, and of course, you have to comment. And more than anything, leave us a review. We love when you tell us how we're doing. We love honest feedback. We love to be held accountable. Extra emphasis on the real, right? That's what it's all about keeping it very real. So we are so happy that you're here with us again. And listen, if you are in here and you know that there's a friend who could benefit from a wonderful episode talking about one of our real lovers' dilemmas, please share this link. Share it right now. Take a moment. You got some time. Share this link out to them so they can join the conversation as well. So I'm so thrilled because this very, very smart man agreed to come on our show. And I am so excited about it. Y'all know, if you've been here, I enjoy the insights from the male perspective. I think it is so necessary, especially the Black male perspective. I feel like we should do so much more to elevate their voices. And more than anything, I'm thrilled because not only is he a Black man, but he is also a licensed mental health counselor. And there are so few of them in the space. There's so few Black men that are in this space. And so it's so important that we platform them to help us and guide us. And so I'm so pleased to share the space tonight with Stanley Cazeau, who is, as I said, a mental health counselor, but he's also a father. He is also a husband. He's an entrepreneur. He's a creative. He's definitely made his rounds on plenty of stages and plenty of panels. So very, very pleased to have you. Y'all welcome Mac in the comments. Let's give it up for him. Whoop, 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 whoop. Welcome, Mac.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Listen, I gave a light intro, but
No?
please introduce yourself to our real lovers.
Let's see, where do I start? So again, my name is Mac. I'm a licensed mental health counselor with a specialization in couples therapy. I operate here out of New York City, where I have my own practice. I'm the first certified Black male certified Gottman therapist on the East Coast. And my specialty tends to be around communication skills, infidelity recovery, and transitioning to parenthood.
Wow, that is like wildly impressive.
Thank
Wildly impressive. So tell me a little bit about what it means to be Gottman certified. I've never heard that before, but for you to be the first Black
you.
therapist on the East Coast to do this has to be a major accomplishment.
Yes, it was a very insightful process. So I'll give you the quick story. I was in grad school and I was dating my girl at that time period, and I was a horrible boyfriend. I didn't know
Hmm.
how to communicate. My conflict skills was horrible. I just
Yeah.
didn't know how to make my relationship work. I would ask the fellas, the OGs. I was asking for game. I was asking for advice. They couldn't help at all. So
Yeah.
while pursuing my mental health degree, I took an elective course and I got introduced to the Gottman approach, where
Okay.
they're based their concept of couples therapy based on 40 years of research. So they teach you, they
Okay.
give you all the skills that you need, how to communicate, how to build friendship, how to build intimacy, and etc. So since I took that class, my whole perspective on relationship changed. It made me realize there's a difference in wanting to be together and having the skills to be together. Right.
Oh,
So
oh.
I've dedicated my professional career into being the one that's able to provide that to all the couples out there that want to be together but just need help on how to make it
To
work.
make it work. Oh my gosh.
Specialty is we got to make this work.
That's right. We're gonna make this work. There is such a, it's such a simple thing to say, right? Like you know you want to be together, but you don't know how to be together. And so many people think all it requires is for you to just want to be together. But
Uh,
there's so much skill set and like deep diving. And as you said, you specialize in communication. And again, for our real lovers who have been here, you know, there is not an episode that goes by where we don't talk about effective communication, that it's not just about what you say, it's about what you hear, it is about your body language, it is about your vibes and your energy. It all plays a part. So that's amazing that you explored that and that it really changed your perspective, which is cool, which I'm sure your clients deeply benefit from. So
yeah, and especially men, I think men resonate with this type of therapy a lot more because very practical. Like
yeah.
I can. So my first session is I will have you argue for 10 minutes straight, but I'm only paying attention to the first sentence that you say along with the first 3 minutes. That tells me everything that I need to know about your relationship. So then I am able to kind of pinpoint where you went wrong and how to correct it. Again, 96% of the time, the way you start a conversation is exactly how it's going to end. So that's why it's very
Mm.
important to be mindful of how to start a conversation.
Oh man. Oh man. Y'all see what's happening in here, right? Y'all see what's happening in here. Our special guest co-host tonight is already cooking and we've only been on here for a few seconds. Listen, I can sit here and ask you a bunch of questions, but we are actually here to jump into our real lovers scenario. But before we do that, I want to share a real lover review because we love hearing from our peeps. And this week we hear from Camille. Let me get this up here. All right, Camille Rochelle. Oh, Camelia Rochelle. Sorry for mispronouncing that. She says, in the last 2 weeks, I have gone back and re-listened to every real love scenario episode from the beginning to date. I can't get enough. Even listening again, I gain new perspective. Camelia, we so appreciate that. That is like a different level of support when you've heard it already, but you go back to get it again to pick up any gems you missed. So we really appreciate it. And y'all be more like Camelia, okay? On YouTube, on our Apple Podcast page, on Spotify, please, please, please leave us a review. It really helps us. It's free to you, but it means the world to us because it help people like yourself that are interested in our content see it more. So please continue to do that. We really appreciate it. All right, Mac, are you ready to get into this real love scenario?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's do it. So this week we have a young lady who clearly says hi, Rhonda and Dre, but hey, Rhonda and Mac. I want to start by expressing my appreciation for the valuable advice you offer. I always look forward to your insights on relationships, even on topics outside of my personal experience. I'm reaching out for guidance on a significant dilemma involving my son's father. Our romantic relationship has become unhealthy, filled with arguments, and we've fallen out of love. It's clear that we need to separate, especially since we share a 7-year-old son, and I don't want him growing up in a toxic environment. We currently live in Arizona, my hometown, where I have minimal family support. My soon to be ex, on the other hand, is from the DMV area and has a larger family network there. He frequently suggests moving back home with our son after we separate, believing it would provide a better support system and opportunities for our child. If my son stays with me, I face challenges with childcare due to my demanding healthcare job, which doesn't allow for flexible hours. In the past, when things were better, we agreed that we would all eventually move back to the DMV, but I didn't expect it to happen under these circumstances. While I trust his father to care for our son, I feel immense guilt and fear about the possibility of him moving so far away. I'm concerned about being apart from my child for an extended time. Is it wrong for me to stand in the way of this move? Should I keep my son with me, or is it better for him to go with his father? I'm feeling overwhelmed and would appreciate any advice you could provide. Thank you so much for writing in.
Wow.
Wow, right?
Wow. That is heavy.
So heavy. Listen, when I first read this, because we have to sometimes modify just to get it to fit in the format, but my heart just just was so heavy for this dilemma because it's so heavy. And I'm not even a mom, so I can't fathom what it would feel like to have to consider living across the country from your child that has been in your house, that was in your womb, that was in your body
For
for a very
seconds.
yes, and to be willing to for the better for his betterment, for just the betterment of everyone involved.
Is it though?
A lot is and that's what we're gonna get into, right? That's what we're gonna get into. So it broke my heart, but just your first takes, kind of when you read that or when you just heard that, what came to mind for you?
So, as a father, right, there
Mhm,
is no way that I would ever take the child away from mom. As the
mhm,
father, it is my job to sacrifice for the betterment of my child and my family. So, even if me and mom are not working out together, there is
mhm,
no way I am removing this child away from mom because I know
mhm.
how important it is to have mom as active as possible. So
Mhm.
removing that child will cause a level of trauma that I may not even be able to foreshadow out of this
Mhm.
moment. So I would have got the apartment next door
Yeah.
a few minutes away, but there's no way I would leave the city and makes it impossible or very difficult for mom to be able to parent. And at the same time, being a single father is also a lot. Being a single parent, period, is
Yeah.
a lot of work, right? Two parent
Yeah.
households are struggling. So why would I elect to be a single parent and
Yeah.
co-parent across state lines? Right. So that's me as the parent, me as the father. Now, as a couples therapist, this makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
On average, couples wait 6 years too late before going to couples therapy. They tend to play defense, not offense. Right.
Mm.
So they wait until things get bad or something has happened before they seek out the assistance that they need, as opposed to going earlier on, get all the skills, get all the tools. So when there's a tough period in the marriage or in the relationship, they have enough to make it through.
Wow.
And I think something that we don't talk about is how your relationship changes after having a child.
Yeah.
I I had three under five, 3 kids and 5 years.
Oh, okay.
I do not recommend. Now I was working over right. And what the research shows is that 75% of relationship will experience a low relationship satisfaction for the first 3 years.
Wow.
Do
Yeah.
you do you know that during postpartum infidelity is at its highest?
Oh, I can believe that. I
Right.
can believe that, of course.
Right. It makes all the sense in the world. Like low relationship satisfaction is guaranteed. You're fighting a lot. You're not communicating. The parents, specifically the mom, tends to be more child centered than partner centered or relationship centered. It's creating resentment. It's creating issue that
Yeah.
we automatically
Envy even.
correct. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. To the point that we believe that we need to walk away from this relationship because this is toxic. But in reality, this is part of the course.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to wait it out and work through it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so to me, what I would recommend is go to couples therapy ASAP.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you on that so much, and I love that you had the statistics to really support what you're saying. Yes, my first thought, I mean, I thought of a couple of things. Like
Mhm,
one, I have a friend who her child now is 17, and career changes happened, and her child's father hadn't been together for a long time. When
mhm,
this all came up, they weren't living together; they were literally co-parenting in the same state, and she just was growing in her career, and it came to a point where she has such a huge opportunity, but it would require her to move to Georgia. And she, of course, went to her son's father before
mhm,
really seriously considering it, because obviously it would have a significant impact on their ability to co-parent with ease. And he said, one, I fully support you and I want you to do it. And I just want to understand a timeline because I would need to move as well. Like exactly what you said. He's like, this is, I'm not live. And we just talking Maryland to Georgia, which was much closer than Maryland to Arizona. Like we're talking a whole nother time zone,
Yeah.
even with that move. And so ultimately, they were able to work it out where he didn't physically relocate, but just the fact that he was willing to do that talked so much about like his commitment. And then I think about Tom Brady and Giselle and
Mhm.
how, you know, they had a very tough divorce, but ultimately literally live like on the same street in order to co-parent with ease. It's like we put the children above all things if we're not going to be together, right? Like I think obviously in a union, in a true union where you're together, I believe that obviously it's the partnership and then the children, but I can imagine that there are days where that ebbs and flows. Like, yeah, today is more about you. Tomorrow, it's definitely more about the kids. Or this weekend, it's definitely more about the kids. Like, it's really not about you. So, like I said, my heart really kind of broke for her to be in this weird situation. And I will say she did share some additional notes that she would plan to move as well,
Okay.
but just she couldn't do it right now. She couldn't do it anytime soon. And
Mm.
so, is there any, I guess, value in your opinion on him going to Maryland and having this bigger family where right now in Arizona, it's just the two of them. There's really no family. There's not a lot of childcare. It's all being
Yeah.
like they're doing it all. Is there a lot of emotional development, developmental support that would come from him being around cousins and aunts and his extended family that he's not getting now in Arizona?
So socially speaking, he may experience an increase in social development and social awareness due to the extended family.
Okay.
However, when we're speaking to attachment, right? Like you are attached to your parents. That is your sense of safety. Now being removed from that parent for a considerable amount of time will have long-term effects on you that you will not be able to preview at this moment, right? Um, Plus, as a 7-year old, there is so much that you're in need of emotionally, right?
Hmm.
That sometimes a father cannot provide because they're not attuned to a child's emotional needs to that degree. Us men, we're just now learning to uncondition ourselves and start being more emotionally aware and have a higher rate of emotional intelligence. So
Yeah.
now I'm wondering this 7-year old who is so used to mom being around and having that closeness, and now who does that transfer to?
Yeah.
Right? Who's
Yeah.
gonna have the tolerance level to parent this child that mom would have?
Hmm.
And I'm also wondering if the lack of support and familiar resources in Arizona caused the the breakup that's
Mm.
within that family.
Yeah.
And ideally, we're all striving to make more money, right? We're all
Yes.
striving to be successful, but at what cost? How much?
Mm.
When we start creating families and having children, we got to be mindful of whether or not what we are chasing is to the benefit of the family that we wanted and that we have created. My wife told me straight up, we're good. We have everything that we need. Anything that you do extra, keep in mind, you're not doing that for us. You're doing that for your own ego.
Ooh, okay, wifey.
I know, right?
What you would you like? God damn.
I'll call my therapist on the spot. Like, what is this? What are we talking about? But it makes all the sense in the world. As Black men
Mhm.
and as Black women, we're always trying to do better, to achieve more. I was born and raised in Haiti, right? So
Okay.
I wasn't financially affluent. I wasn't raised in that space. So now where I'm in a position where I could earn and earn and earn and earn, I want to provide all of these things for my children, but at
Yeah.
what cost? How much is enough?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we could, if a conversation is needed so they
Mhm.
could really address what is the core need of that child versus what makes sense for each person.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to highlight this comment. Portia said, "Whoo, I'm gonna have to run that back." Yeah, that knocked me down a little bit too, Portia. To our real lovers in the chat, I want you to, start thinking about, like, what would you do if you were faced with this situation? We certainly want to read your thoughts at the end of the episode, so definitely chime in on that. You make so many valid points about connection and attachment and
Mhm.
development. I remember being 7. I remember being I'm 41 right now. I remember being 40 and being like, "Mom, help
Right?
me." You know what I'm saying? Like, so I can't really fathom not having that physical attachment. I grew up in a single parent household, so my dad was very much in and out.
Mhm.
And so I never got as attached to him as I should have and as I could have. And I recognize through obviously therapy and work the void that created in my life, the deficit that created in my life. And what's interesting is that I don't know, but I suspect that even if it was an elective void, like he needed to go, I knew what was happening. If he was in the military, if he was a pilot, just someone that had to be out of the home so much, I think I still would have had some of the issues that happen without his physical presence being around. And so when I think about that, it is like, as a therapist, outside of you saying like go to couples therapy, if this couple came to you, obviously you're there to try to figure out what's happening. You're there to listen and guide, but not necessarily always advise.
Mhm.
But truly, would you maybe have them reconsider reuniting if things aren't as difficult, if, as you said, maybe the lack of family support led to the breakup?
Yeah, so as the couples therapist, my job is to facilitate the necessary conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tend to say us therapists have trained ears. We hear the things that you're not saying, and we hear
Hmm.
the things that you're trying to say,
Yeah.
right? So part of my work here would be helping them talk about what is the best thing for the child, for the development of the child.
Yeah.
And also I would want a relationship history. How
Okay.
long were we together? What attracted me to you? What attracted you to me? How much commitment did we have, and where did things go wrong?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
from there is, does any of that still exist? Because
Mm.
my challenge would be, is there any chance that we can try to make this relationship work for the betterment of the child? Like, do you feel like you've given it everything that you've got, to the
Yeah.
point that you can walk away? And specifically, I would be speaking to the male partner. From
Hmm.
father to father, do you feel like you've put your best foot forward to make this work and give it everything that you've got?
Hmm.
And part of that rhetoric would also be, if you guys have never done couples therapy before, how could you have really given this a shot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, you've
Hmm.
kind of handicapped yourself throughout that whole process.
Hmm.
And again,
Hmm.
the research shows in very large numbers that removing the child from mom or dad is not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Co-parenting, where it's not even 50-50 or 60-40, is, in a few months I will see you.
Yeah.
Right? In a few weeks I will see you. And it may not even be for an extended amount of time. At what cost?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I would really focus on helping them communicate and having the uncomfortable conversations, but also want to assess their communication skills. If you guys can communicate now, what happens when you're miles apart?
When you literally don't have to communicate. I mean, you should, right? Because you have a child together. But if I don't live in the same house with you, your only connection to me is the phone, right? I
Mhm.
can not pick it up. I can ignore your messages if I'm frustrated with you, if we have this toxic way of communicating. So it's like, yeah, I can't imagine that it would improve, even though, I'm a never say never type of person. Maybe a change of the environment would change the relationship dynamic between them.
Mhm.
But again, co-parenting is difficult as is. Even when you live in the same city and you're just in two different houses across town, it can be a lot to manage, and keeping up with the schedule and who's doing this. I had a coworker who was like, me and my son's dad, we split them like a hoagie. He goes there 6 months out the year and he comes here 6 months out of the year. And there were still things that just had to be coordinated because he was in sports. So yeah, when he's with dad for 6 months, mom is having to keep up with games and practices. She's still going to these things. And so it's already an additional job, if you will, right? I'm sure for you and your wife, you living in the same house, like you said, you got 3 under 5, but so many things are probably a lot more seamless because you live under the same roof.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I don't think mom would actually go along with this. I think the guilt will be way too much for mom to carry
Yeah.
to even allow this to happen.
Yeah.
So even if she did say yes, I do think mom would fast track her career to be able to relocate and be closer to her baby,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the absence, the attachment, the quiet house, the wandering, the not having the physical access. I think moms are not built that way, right?
No.
So if she is attuned to her own feelings, if she is attuned to her child's feelings, I give her no more than 6 months before she reconsiders.
Yeah, and listen, speaking of mom's career, like realistically, you are leading a career in mental health, and I in this space, but also in my full-time job. And you think about like how much stress can have an impact on your work, right?
Mhm.
Like how much external factors can have just an impact on how your day is going, your ability to perform well. Talk to me about that a bit and how that could have an adverse effect on this career that she's pursuing in healthcare. Is it even really going to be, like you said, at what cost? Could it even be as successful as it may be today with her worrying and lingering on what is my son doing? Is he okay? I can't see him. I can't see him. Just the sadness that would come with that.
Yeah, and to also add in the relational aspect is, if you're in a long term healthy relationship, you tend to earn more. You tend to live 6 to 10 years longer. You tend to be better in terms of physical and mental health. So
Yeah.
that guilt that mom is carrying will directly impact how she shows up for work, how she shows up for herself. And
Hmm.
I'm also wondering what are the ways that she would cope. Is it drinking? Is it excessive work? Is it unwanted behaviors? Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to some degree, that will directly negatively impact how she shows up in the world in general.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even consider the coping mechanisms or the unhealthy coping mechanisms, especially when you remove the thing that helps to hold you responsible. You were responsible, I'm sure, to some degree before you became a father, before you became a husband. But once you add babies
So
into that dynamic, it's a whole different ball game where, like, yeah, now there's no kid in the house. You probably could just drink a bottle of wine and be free and do whatever you want to do to drown your emotions, right?
and what happens when the 7-year-old picks up the phone and say, "Mom, I want to see you. Mom, I
Mm.
miss you. Mom, when are you gonna come get me?
Oh my God. Oh.
Mom, dad is being mean. Mom, here's what's happening in the family. I don't like it. I'm
Mhm.
not comfortable." Right? What happens then? How do we cope with that? How does mom show up in those regards?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Portia says she agrees. She can't even run 3 errands in a row without thinking about the babies. And Gloria said, I couldn't do it. Yeah, I don't know. And we're all not built the same. There's some people that just I guess can do certain things in a certain way. But the fact that she wrote in really says to me that this is a very real struggle, and that this would be extremely painful for probably everyone involved. I even underestimate, I mean, I think the man in this situation, obviously we're not talking to him,
Yeah.
but I think he even very likely deeply underestimates how much this is going to impact his responsibilities, his emotional welfare, and the emotional welfare of his kid, right? Like you said, men can be so practical, like, oh, it's gonna be fine. He's good. My mom's there, my grandmother's there, my cousins are, like, everybody can just be there. But it's like, but what happens when they're not available, or You can't drop them off at the house, or things that you can do right now. Like you could run and go to the grocery store right this second, babe, I'll be right back. Well, you can't do that now. He's got to come, or you got to get someone to watch him. I think he severely is underestimating that. How would you suggest he approach, if his goal is like, listen, we've got to go to the DMV and I really need you to leave this career of yours behind here in Arizona. How would you recommend he approach that conversation with her?
Well, right. So leadership really matters when it comes to parenting and relationships in general.
Hmm.
And leadership does not equate to being the breadwinner.
Yeah.
Just because you're not earning more than your partner does not mean that you cannot be action oriented and take the lead in certain aspects, right? Too
Yeah.
often I am speaking to married women who are married single women, right?
Hmm.
They are
Hmm.
in a relationship. They have their partners with them, but they do feel single. They do feel like they not only taking care of the finances, but they're also holding down all of the aspects of the household. So
Yeah.
if I am him, I would come to her with a game plan. Here's what life would look like in the DMV. It may not be you're making as much money as you're making now, but life could be better because we would have a network of support. You would have more time for you. You would have more people to help us out or to help you out. And I myself, here are the things that I'm committing to doing to lessen your load and to make the transition easier for you.
Mm. Mm, that's it. We listen, we love a man with a plan now. Uh I could go on and on and on about that, how it just in many different disciplines or many different categories, how that works. I am so I don't know if the word fascinated is right, but I am very attracted to good dads. Right? Like if you are a father, I think that being an active and present father is attractive. And I think a part of it is because it heals that part inside of me where I didn't have that. And
Mhm.
so I was dating a guy and went to his place for the first time, and he had a room for his son, and I thought,
Oh,
that's so nice. He's obviously wasn't with the mom, so it was co-parenting, but it's just something that I didn't see, right? Like I would date guys that had kids and they lived in a space that if their kids came over, they slept on the couch, or he slept on the couch and they slept in the bedroom. And granted, I mean, it's four walls. They have somewhere to be, but they didn't have their own space. They they it's like they were just kicking it, like friends just hanging out instead of them having a very formal space to be in. And so I think it's an amazing thing when a father is present for the child. Hard
mhm.
stop there. But I think it's an even more beautiful thing when a man and a mom, but I want to focus on the man for a second, can really cover the mother of his child and really consider her well-being at how it impacts the child's rearing and their experience. And while I agree with you, I think both parents are exceptionally integral in the child's like best case scenario. They need both, but I
Mhm.
do think there's something extremely special about that nurturing, caretaking, coddling even, that I know sometimes dads are like, just let him grow up. Just don't hold him so tight, but I think that there's something so beautiful about that. And I appreciate when a man, again, who isn't even with the mom anymore, but it's like, I have to make sure she's good, in a way that's respectful to my new partner, if that is the scenario. But I made a life with this person, and we are still connected and raising this life together. And if she's not good, we're not good, you
Correct.
know?
And for some reason, men don't realize that. And I think it's because that requires a switch of roles. Now,
Mm,
if you think traditionally in most relationships, the
yeah.
woman is the one that is thinking of the man, right? Covering that man, coddling that man, showing up emotionally and taking
Mhm.
care of those things. Now, mom produces a child and she's at her most vulnerable. Like she put her life at risk for your seed,
Literally. Yeah.
right? She's going through postpartum. She's losing her hair.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel like her body is hers. Her body is now surviving solely for the survival of that child. Like her
Yep.
body is no longer in service to her. And
Hmm.
during all of that, and you're watching her pumping, breastfeeding, not sleeping, taking care of that child as much as possible as society deems it, and you're sitting there watching her and be like, hey, what about me?
Mm,
Can I get some attention too? Like, hey, why are you not doing the things that you used to do for me? Versus,
mm.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to be a teammate and show up for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
With my kids, I had the night shift. That's me. You go to sleep, I got it. We're not even
Mhm.
sleeping in the same room. You go over there so I could guarantee you sleep. Because the minute you hear the baby, your motherly instincts are going to kick in and you're going to want to take over. And what's also interesting is like during pregnancy, the man's testosterone drops and the estrogen increases. So they are more susceptible to the child's needs, right? That's why
Interesting.
men tend to gain weight. That's why you see the biggest gangster. The minute that they have a child or a daughter, they'll put that tutu on, they'll play with the child or etc. Because the testosterone has dropped and the estrogen
Yeah.
has increased, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your brain starts to reformulate itself because now your only goal is how do I keep this child alive? Your brain
Yeah.
decision you're making is how do I keep this child alive? But in
Yeah.
order to do so, you got to take care of mom first.
That's it. That's
And
it.
moms will be experiencing so much separation anxiety and so much guilt, not just on their own, but other mothers telling them what to do or how they're not doing a great job, that as a man, part of the covering is showing up, is presenting that barrier. Hey, do not offer any advice to my wife or to my partner, to the mother of my child, unless requested. We don't
Mm.
comments here. Yes,
Yeah.
when you walk in, the house is going to be dirty. We just had a child. Keep your
Yes.
things to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to give her the 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 way out. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
got the baby. You go to the gym. You go for a walk. I
Mm-hmm.
put the girls out. You guys are going for dinner. I got this.
Yeah.
Usually, she will choose that child no matter what
Yeah.
because her brain, her body, everything about her is being focused on keeping this child alive.
Yeah.
But
And I
again, these conversations are not happening.
Yeah, and but that's okay. They're happening tonight, and they're going to keep happening on our platforms. And I think to round out this particular conversation, because I do want to give our real lovers who are joining us live an opportunity to ask you questions in the chat
Mhm.
for the last few minutes of the episode, just about anything. We have a licensed a mental health counselor here tonight as our guest host and our special guest co-host. And if you're just joining us, Max Stanley Cazeau is here with us tonight, and we're very excited to have him. But to really round it out, I think that's why she really would be it's easier said than done. This is why I think that it would be so hard, because one, it's an experience that you've never done, so in general it's hard to do something different.
Mhm.
But this is a maternal, physical, genetic connection that you've never had to step away from for a significant amount of time. And to think that you will be able to do it even with some level of ease, I think is a tall ask. And I think it's very hard. I do want to ask you though, because if she, let's say, they decide this is best, and she is going to allow, and I use that word in quotes because I think obviously they're both the parents.
Yeah.
And women can be very much like, when it comes to that type of thing, that's my child, and it's like, well, it's his child too. He, at this point in the game, he has just as much rights and access and all as you do. But considering all things, if they do this, what are some practical steps outside of ensuring that she visits frequently to continue to cultivate her bond and connection to her son without being physically in his space?
Yeah. Well, we have the beauty of technology where you don't have to be present physically and you can still have an impact, whether that's phone calls, text, um, video chats, or whatever the case may be, right? So there is a chance for her to still be present,
Mm-hmm.
even though she is not there physically. Now, on her side of things, and because I've dealt with different types of couples in general, what I would say is create a thorough parenting plan. Think
Mm,
of anything and everything and make sure it's as clear as possible. Because when you guys are at odds, what happens to the child?
mm,
If we are not seeing eye to eye, is my access going to be revoked? How will the child be weaponized against me? Vice versa, right?
mhm.
And to me, I would have a thorough plan on all of these things so that I know no matter what, I can still fall back on the parenting plan, even though we're not doing the best with our co parenting. So that
Yeah.
would be my top two advice to her.
A parenting plan is so cool, and I think actually all parents should have them. I mean, again, I'm mindful of my insights as it relates to telling people how to parent, as I don't have that experience. But
Mhm.
I think when you think about approaching life in general, we do so much around a plan. We have a fitness plan, we have a nutrition plan, we create plans for work and our professions, and or if we're taking a trip for our birthday in 6 months, we're gonna come up with a plan and an itinerary on how we're gonna get it paid for, where we're going to go. But it's like of matters of the heart. We think, oh, it's not supposed to be so formal in that way. It's not supposed to be like that. And I deeply disagree. I think, plans obviously should have flexibility and room for things to not go as planned. But realistically, what is wrong with taking an approach to say, what happens in this scenario? Or here is how we literally just plan for the visiting schedule. Like, there needs to be consistency in that, especially for a child so young. That's how they learn, through regular practice, consistent things
Yes.
over and over and over again. And so we need a plan around, you'll visit every whatever, whatever. And we will ensure that financially that's possible, that there's a comfortable place for you to be when you come to visit, like whatever that looks like. We have to work together on it as a team and not just make it, well, you've got to figure out how to come see your son.
Yeah. And I also wonder, will she have to pay child support? I mean, you know, if you don't have primary custody of the child and financially you're out earning, your male partner or co-parent
Hmm.
will take you to court for child support. And if that's not the route, what are your financial obligations to the child that is no longer in your care? Right.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
those are all conversations that have to take place. So we are making a decision with all of the information available to us.
All the things considered. My goodness. Again, I think
Hmm.
of, didn't even think about that, right? He could absolutely decide that he wants that and needs that because, well, we're across all of these states at this point, and I'm the primary, I'm the custodial parent, and what you used to do in the house is, a totally different ball game. I absolutely hate the idea of court systems having to dictate how to maintain or manage your family.
Hmm.
Um, but even just an arrangement between the two of you is still something that has to be discussed, like you said, and something that has to be considered. I would say to our real lover, my final thoughts to you are, honestly, listen to Mac, exactly what he said. Definitely seek out a couples therapist, and I would say even a couples therapist that has some specialization in family therapy,
Hmm.
because I'm sure a therapist that has specialty in that has seen this type of dynamic and can kind of walk you through, if you all aren't able to bring your relationship to a good place to remain together, that will help you transition your relationship into something that is still healthy, that is centering the child, but also centering your well-being, so you can be really good for your children. I appreciate, let me honor that, the fact that you came to us and acknowledge that, like, this is tough. Our son right now is living in a toxic environment because of us, and we know we need to walk away from each other. At least that's how you feel today. I honor that, because there's so many parents who don't make that decision, who allow their children to stay in a toxic environment and watch their parents tear each other apart. And that is also very traumatic, as well. But I think it just is going to require you all to really level set and sit with each other and set not your feelings aside, but really try to prioritize what is in the best interest of our family, whether we are a couple or not, we are still family. And what is in the best interest of our family? Is it really you jumping ship and moving to the DMV, knowing that I can't literally do that right now? And you know that this would literally rip my heart out of my chest, taking our child that far away from me, knowing that I can't mentally do it, but I can't also probably physically or financially do it. So I think your insight is spot on, and so many statistics, like I said, shared about um, what makes sense and what we want to avoid. We don't want to fall into those negative statistics and stereotypes of creating and creating broken homes unnecessarily or without a plan to help manage them.
Yeah, that's I don't wish that on any parent. I pray that you find the that you find some compassion, because I could only imagine how tough that is on you as a mom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that this is your experience, and I trust that you will do the best thing for you and
Mhm.
for the child, and whatever that is, we support you 1,000%.
Absolutely. Mac, thank you for that. Well, listen, I want to turn the tables to now us asking you just some questions. And while
Okay.
we wait for our real lovers to load some in the chat, I've
Mm-hmm.
got one burning question right now because you
So,
talked about having a specialty in infidelity recovery.
yes, ma'am.
One, let's just tell me what that is first, and then I'll ask my question.
So infidelity recovery is something that's not really talked about, that people tend to deal with in the shadows, right? So it's basically there has been an affair or somebody cheated in the relationship,
Mhm.
and you have decided that you want to make this relationship work, right? And you understand that there's a lot of work needed, and that's where I come in. That's where I come in to help you through the process of rebuilding not the same relationship, but a relationship 2.0 that will safeguard this relationship against future infidelity acts.
Oh my goodness. So we
Yeah.
talked about a few episodes ago, was cheating a deal breaker, right? Like at
Um,
this point, is cheating a deal breaker? And for me, it is a yes right now, right? But it's very different once you're in the situation. And I want to believe that when I get married, not if I get married, when I get married,
mhm,
I certainly don't want to experience it, right? But if it happens, can I really hold to my vows? Can I really consider that worst thing, that hold for better? Or is this
mhm,
falling
mhm.
in the
Thank you.
worst
Thank you.
little department? And
Uh-huh.
is God really gonna ask me to like figure this out with him? What if it happens, right?
Mhm.
Outside of obviously getting a therapist and someone that can specialize in this, what is really like step one to forgiving, or at least getting on the journey to forgiving a person who has betrayed your trust in this way?
So I don't see it as the forgiving process.
Okay.
I see it as, you see, infidelity forces couples to have the conversations that they should have had but never had, right? 70% of infidelity is due to an emotional need not being met in the relationship.
70%.
70%. So it's not about sex. It's not about trying to get your rocks off, right? It's usually because as a man, I feel that I have no say in this relationship. When I express my emotions, there's no room for it. I have no voice.
Mm,
As a woman, it might be I'm not feeling prioritized or desired or wanted. I'm not feeling seen or heard by my partner. The romance is gone, right? So now you, as a human, you that need needs to be met elsewhere. So you're not going outside of the relationship looking for it. It just naturally happened. The person that's talking to you, that's giving you the attention that you've been missing, right? And you start to connect to that a little bit more, that
mhm.
eventually could turn sexual.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first step to recovery is the betrayer has to be honest about everything, right? All your questions need to get answered, but we stop at the bedroom door because we all know what takes place there, right? We don't need to ask those questions. That's just going to further traumatize you. But in terms of where have you guys met? How long has this been going? Have you guys maintained contact? When have you lied to me? All of these questions have to be answered. And a lot of
Mhm.
times the betrayers tend to have a problem with them because they don't want to hurt you even more.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that. Because let's say we go through that whole process. We're feeling
Yeah.
great. We're building trust. And then I find out that you lied or you didn't tell me the full truth. Now we're back to step one.
We are back to square one.
So you might as well be honest from the get.
Yeah. And I think,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that infidelity in itself is a very traumatic experience with symptoms of PTSD for up to 5 years. You will have symptoms as if you just came home from war,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
phone ring, you're triggered.
Wow.
Get late by 2 minutes, you're triggered, right?
Woo.
And and one of the steps of recovery is giving access. If you cheated on me, now I need access to your phone. I need to access to your location. Are
Mhm.
you willing to be that available and vulnerable with me while I learn to trust you again?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, where were you a few years ago, right? Like, certainly I've been cheated on, and I've been very transparent on this show to say that I've also cheated. And certainly mine was rooted in an emotional need. And I think there certainly was too. I just was so shocked that it was 70%, because I think a lot of times we think, especially when it comes to men cheating, we think, oh, it's about greed and about they just want sex and sex and sex. And I'm sure that is the case for some, but an overwhelming amount of people, it is about an emotional deficit that they're just getting filled through what could develop into sex.
Yes. But sex is also an emotional need for men, right?
Mhm.
Due to society, men are unable to express certain things, right? We're unable to say "I love you" to some. We're unable to really share what
Mhm.
we need and ask for what we need emotionally, but we get that through physical intimacy. So it's not just
Yeah.
sex; it's my way of feeling wanted, desired, appreciated, respected, right? So
Ooh.
now, when that is lacking, those are all of the emotional needs of mine that are not being met. So that makes me susceptible to infidelity. A lot of relationships, a lot of partners in relationships are predisposed to infidelity based on the culture of their relationship.
Oh man. I feel like I'm about to lay back on this chair and just go ahead on and pull my life out. Y'all, give me a second. Let me just have my session. Let me have my session by myself. That is just like you saying that sex is an emotional need for men has me like
Mhm.
right now, because everything you said makes all the sense in the world. And while I do think we are seeing a world today where we are doing a better job at making space and creating room for men to be vulnerable emotionally, to be able to be emotionally vulnerable vocally, and have space, it is still a struggle. It is still hard. Men are still being told, oh, that's soft, or you not a woman, or whatever the things are when they are being vocally or verbally emotionally vulnerable.
Mhm.
But as a woman, obviously, who's been on the receiving end of a man's attention, affection, and love and commitment, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that sex was an emotional need for them.
Yeah.
Like, and it all just like registered in this moment, like for sure. And I'm a, proud and unashamed sexual being that enjoys it with my partner and all of that. But there are times where like my emotions aren't rested on it. You know what I mean? Or I feel like I can get the same emotional release by talking to my girlfriend.
Correct.
Like it's a different physical release for me,
Yes.
certainly. But emotion, I could be like, let me call Lindsay and just talk to her for an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I got that out. Where a man is like, the only way I can get that out
It's through you.
is through you, is in that bedroom.
Yeah. We don't have male friends that we could call and cry on the phone with, right?
Yeah.
Many of us don't have those friendships. Many of us can't experience that vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the men will say, I do A through Z. And all I'm looking for is that emotional connection that I feel they're deserving of. Also, like the concept of monogamy is that you are the only person that I can be sexual with. So
Mm,
now when you remove yourself, I have access to nobody.
yeah.
Right? We agreed to this partnership where you meet my need and I meet your need. It's a reciprocity. So
Yeah.
now when you're no longer available, I don't have access to you, but I also cannot have access to the outside world. So that leaves me all alone with nowhere to go.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you for this insight. Like I love a moment before we join, and our Bashe Williams has introduced us to Mac, and he's done a lot of work with him. And he's like, "You got to talk to my guy, Mac. You got to talk to Mac. You got to get Mac on the show." And now I see why, because the way that you deep dive and just explain it as in a very matter of fact way. I think the work that you're doing as it relates to infidelity recovery is brilliant, and it is not talked about enough, and I do think that people try to do it on their own, and
You
my
can't.
goodness, you yeah, I try, as a person who has tried to do it on their own. I could have used a coach along the way. I could have used a therapist along the way to help guide certain things. On the flip side of that, what are some of the things that the person who was betrayed, the betrayee,
Mhm.
has to be open to as they go through this process? Like, you think about, like you said, they get access, they get all the things, they've been told all the everything except for what happened in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Is there a way to set a realistic timeline on, like, when you should be over this and how we can get things back to the way it was? Is that even realistic?
So I wouldn't use the word over it because you're never over it, right? Like
Yeah.
there are certain things that can continuously trigger you. However, your response to it needs to diminish over time, right? So eventually, when you start getting the access to the cell phones, to the location, or being able to just FaceTime at any time, right? There has to become a point where you're able to rebuild back that trust, where you don't become the NSA or the CIA, right? Eventually, you have to be able to move from that space when your partner is giving you everything they feel that they have to give you for you to rebuild back that trust. Now, I have had some clients where it's been 3 years and it's still the same process where I'm checking your location 24/7. You're two
Mm,
minutes late. What's happening? Now, our conversation is needed, right? Because why are you not able to move forward? What's happening? What is missing? What's happening for you that's stopping you from being able to rebuild back the trust, right?
yeah.
So that's where that conversation is needed, and then we get to have a heart to heart and actually really want to make this relationship work. Is there
Yeah.
room for you to actually be able to move forward, or is it time for you to possibly think of exiting because this is making things a lot worse for you and things are not getting better, right? I
Yeah.
think the betrayer tends to want things to move faster
Yeah.
than expected, and that's very unfair, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Not only did you break the trust, now my idea of you is also shifting. Who I thought you were is also shifting.
Yeah.
What I thought we had has also shifted.
Yeah.
Now, if other people are aware of it, your friends, my friends, your family, or etc., their perception of the relationship shifts and their views of us shift.
Yeah.
And to
It's daddy time. It's daddy time. It's so sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the most rewarding work that I've done. I've been
Mhm.
very surprised by who have contacted me for these type of services, but
Huh.
it's incredibly beautiful. You know what? Last thing, right? I had this
Yeah.
couple that worked together for 13 years.
Mhm.
He walked in and said, "Hey, we're here for infidelity recovery." I know at first we're gonna be addressing her feelings, how she felt, what led to the recovery, and help her heal. Once
Yeah.
we're done with that, I really want to talk about how I've been unhappy for the past 8 years, how I felt alone in this relationship, and how this relationship has not been working for me for the past 8 years.
Ooh,
That's the work.
that is the work.
That's the work.
Whew, Mac, this was incredible. This was incredible. Our real lovers were being super shy with their questions, but listen, they may not want to expose the really intimate questions that they have. So please tell us how they can connect with you, how they can chat with you, where they can follow you, and keep up with all the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I would say in terms of social media, I haven't been doing much of that lately. Three kids in 5 years. You guys can't understand, but my IG is Talk to Mac Stanley, Talk TALK, the number two Mac MAC. Also, I plan on doing Q&As via YouTube as well.
Mhm.
Eventually, I want to launch a pod. Very, very bad. Everybody's telling me to do that. You are
Yeah.
incredible at it. Oh my God.
Oh,
The way you
thank you.
the way you're able to reframe and make things work, that was amazing. So hopefully you guys will get more of me in the future.
I love that. And we're rooting for you. I really appreciate you saying that. We're absolutely rooting for you. We're also praying for you to stay strong. The babies, they're gonna grow up. They're gonna grow up. They're gonna get bigger. They're gonna get more
Yeah,
independent.
we figured this out, man.
That's
I
it.
did a lot of research before having kids, so I was ahead of the curve, right? The
Yeah,
wife and
yeah,
I, we built out the systems and the foundations that we needed, so we didn't experience that low relationship satisfaction. Play offense, not
yeah.
defense. Now I played a lot of offense. Now we good. We good, good,
That's
good,
right.
good. I would
That's
say
right.
this is the best my relationship has been in the past 15 years.
Wow. Oh my gosh. See, that gives me so much hope and encouragement. Like, I love talking to coupled folks, married folks that are relishing and riding those waves, but relishing in where they are today, even with the challenges, if you even want to call it that, challenges that they've experienced. Gloria, we are out of time, but I'm gonna absolutely connect with send me a message on Instagram because I'll connect you with Mac. I'm sure he would be happy to answer your question offline. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you connect with Mac on Instagram or wherever at Talk to Mac Stanley. And Portia, we're gonna bring Mac back. I like that. Bring Mac back. That's a good chant. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it. And listen, follow me on social media. I'm at Ronnie Cakes. Follow Dre at It's Dre Smith and the pod page or the network page, Relationship Restored. And don't forget, we have a community that's waiting for you. So please go to our website, relationshiprestored.com, and click join community so that you can be a part of those conversations. And we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, it is ending.